Welcome to Black Girl Diagnosed and Happy Autism Acceptance Month. Today we're joined by Dr. K, an AuDHD award-winning educator, activist, and practitioner whose work centers protecting Black communities in digital spaces. K is an outspoken advocate addressing online gender-based violence as a disability rising fellow and community safety and support steward for Black Sky algorithms. They work to create safer, more inclusive online environments through research, content moderation, and harm reduction strategies. Through their work with digital presence, Kay is deeply committed to protecting Black women, girls, and non binary people while building online communities rooted in safety, care, and justice. Thank you so much, Kay, for joining us today on Black Girl Diagnosed.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So this is a really interesting episode and a really interesting topic that I haven't spoken to anybody else about before, and I haven't heard a lot about. So I'm really happy and honored that you can join us. So we'll just get right into things. You've done important work around the digital misogynoir. How does this specifically impact Black autistic women and non-binary people online?
Yeah, so for misogynoir, for folks who may not be familiar, listening is the anti-Black sexism and racism that Black women and gender expansive people experience. It's similar to misogyny, but the noir makes it for us clearly. And
I
just
love
because
that.
and we experience it more, obviously, and there's more consequences for what we experience. So I look at it in the digital space, and as someone who is late diagnoses, one thing that I can say is that a lot of um, Black women and non-binary and gender expansive people who are autistic tend to be misunderstood a lot in the digital space. And I think that when it comes to digital misogynoir, Black women and femme presenting people, a lot of the ways that we show up in the world are questioned a lot anyway. And I think that once people find out that we're autistic or we start talking about being a person with autism and on the spectrum, um, people may try to use that as an opportunity to like not only be ableist, but like make us feel like we're lying or attribute that specifically to the angry Black woman
Yeah.
stereotype or those types of things. And I've noticed that in my work alone, because I am autistic, um, I talk very matter of factly. So a
Mhm.
lot of times, as someone who's considered outspoken, I have noticed that there are people who will take what I've said and like twist it, or I will even say like, I am autistic, so if I'm saying this in a way that maybe feels like brash or harsh, I do want you to keep that in mind. But what I'm telling you is like what my experience is.
Right.
It gets downplayed a lot. Or I also think that like people don't necessarily talk about how many Black women um, are, on the spectrum and either have been diagnosed or they are thinking that their particular, um, different abilities are because they are Black women,
Mhm.
and not because they're neurodivergent. And I think that also comes through how autism and particularly how Black women are talked about online.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think people understand how, being autistic, you would think that it would be autism spaces would be safe for Black women, but a lot of people don't understand that autism spaces aren't safe for Black women. And, me, some of the most racist people that I have encountered online have been autistic. And I always say, I'm like, you don't get a pass for being racist just because you're autistic.
Mhm. Yeah, and I agree. And I think that that is something that we're also seeing a lot coming up, like in the news with folks with other disabilities, is that like Black women in particular and Black women with disabilities, we are expected to allow people to treat us poorly
Hmm.
no matter what. And if they have a disability, we're not allowed to hold them accountable. And even if we're like, I too have said disability and you're treating me this way, I feel like they still default to, especially if it's like a white man, they still default to the people who are seen as like actual, like really neurodivergent, and that we're just like, I don't know. It almost makes it feel sometimes like they make it seem like we're weaponizing the fact that we are neurodivergent, like we're using it as a
Oh,
backdrop.
yes. People
Um,
definitely do that.
yeah, and I don't think that's the case because I think that it's important for us to be able to talk about it and also explain how like how that impacts how we interact with people and also how people interact with us.
Right.
And they get away with it. And I think it's unfair.
It is, and like that is like everything you said is so true. And I had an encounter with somebody on YouTube who was like, I was speaking about how autism presents differently in Black women, even in our meltdowns, and
Mhm.
even in being overstimulated, and even in stimming. And some white lady, I don't know if she was autistic or not, but she was like, "Oh, well, I hope Black women aren't gonna start using autism as an excuse to start being loud and mean and rude." And I was just like, wow, well, you just said a lot about yourself just from those few sentences that you left in this comment.
Yeah, and she already has a narrative written in her head that Black women are loud, mean, and rude. And
Exactly.
and also like I'm autistic, but I can also be loud, mean, and rude on purpose. Like
Right.
I also think that's another thing that like they think that Black women with autism, like we don't have control over like we like sometimes like when we are being firm that we're not being intentional with it. They're like, oh, well, they're autistic, so maybe they just said it that way. But sometimes it's like, no, I'm telling you exactly how I feel, autistic or not, and you still are not taking me seriously. And you saying that, oh, I hope they don't try to use that as an excuse for being loud, mean, and rude is basically just saying that it don't matter if I got autism or not. You automatically have already decided who I am
Yeah,
based on stereotypes.
the way her tone and everything, I was like, wow, you're just a little racist who found your way onto my page. That's why you're
Yeah.
blocked.
Yeah.
Navigating academic spaces can be challenging. So, how has your experience as a neurodivergent person shaped the way you move through those environments?
Yeah, so I got diagnosed with ADHD and autism when I was in my doctoral program. So I didn't get diagnosed until I was in my 30s, and then almost in my mid 30s. So I spent most of my like K through 12, undergrad and masters, thinking that like I never thought I was normal. That wasn't a problem. Just like knowing that like things just felt exponentially harder. And when I got into my doc program, I knew that I needed to like really push with like my psychiatrist and therapist about like maybe I do need like at first like an ADHD like evaluation because like I couldn't read for longer than like 25 minutes. And in a doc program, you have to do a lot of reading. And I was like, I'm not
Uh,
going to be able to get through this. And I was like, the words are jumping on the page. That's how I described it. Because I was like, I have to figure out how to like describe this. And luckily, like my therapist teams and stuff are Black women. So like they weren't like, oh, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. Like they were helpful. But I did have to wait until I got like my official ADHD diagnoses in order to be able to get accommodations at my school. And
mhm.
like my psychiatrist had to basically like say, because they have ADHD, they need extensions and stuff like that. And then I got diagnosed with autism later on. And my therapist for years had been talking to me about going to see this neuropsychologist in our city who like, works with adults, diagnosed adults. And I was just like, oh, well, maybe it's not this. Maybe it's just trauma this. And we're doing all this trauma work. And she's like, okay, yeah, friend, certain things are not trauma related. Like you may just be on the spectrum and that's fine. Um, and I think that I wish I would have listened to her sooner
Mhm.
when I was in my doc program because I think it would have saved me a lot of like confusions around like relationship building, which was an issue for me, feeling very like I felt a lot of times where I felt like I just didn't belong in the space.
Yeah.
Obviously because like I'm Black, but also like I come from a different like economic background. So I'm like poor and then like also I'm disabled physically. And I have mental health issues. So I would be in these spaces and it would feel like I had never had to go to so many conferences before. Um, I felt like so overstimulated that I would be exhausted. Like I would do my
Oh,
presentation, have to go back to my hotel room and like stay. I didn't go to like any of the happy hours and stuff. Like I was very like isolating myself. Um, and I was just like, okay, I should definitely go see the neuropsychologist. And he was great. He was very helpful. Um, but I would say that like, unfortunately, it didn't really change the way that I feel like other people interact with me in academia, especially people who I'm not close to.
Uh,
or people who are honestly don't like doesn't like the way that I show up. And also because I am autistic, I think that also like I think that a lot of people struggle with giving me grace like they give other people,
hmm.
because they think that, oh, well, you got a PhD, you did this, or like you're in school, you're doing well, but it's like I still need accommodations, I still need support, I still need to be able to ask questions, I still need these particular things. And I don't think that there were a lot of spaces for me specifically where I had that opportunity to get that.
Yeah, and I always say this. I'm like, black women, black autistic women, we don't get the grace that everybody else gets. And so, the fact that you touched on that, that's really important for people to know. So your work centers Black feminism and harm reduction. Can you share with our audience what harm reduction looks like in digital spaces and why it's so necessary right now?
Yeah, so Black feminism is something that I always kind of knew about, but I really, really learned about it. I want to say like understood more about it in like 2014. And that was like the theory and stuff that I used in my master's program. And I really just continued to read and read about it. And as I read about it, a lot of the stuff that I was reading was literally just talking about the amount of like the amount of harm and like the historical backing of like how Black women have been harmed and like how we can like protect ourselves and like what to look out for and like how the world views us, which I think was really helpful. And then when it came to the harm reduction piece, I had experienced extreme digital misogynoir online harassment when I used to be on Twitter,
Mm.
which like kind of like really pushed the first leg of my research in like the 2010s. And that experience made me wonder like how are people protecting themselves, because like in 2014, ish, there was like even if you reported somebody or something like that, it didn't really matter. And I saw it happening to celebrities and stuff like that. So I was just really interested in like how are Black women and femmes and gender expansive people, how are we like protecting ourselves? Because we can't really depend on certain social media platforms to do that for us.
Hmm.
So for me, like when I think about harm reduction in digital spaces, a lot of that can look like clapping back, right? So I wrote about that a lot in my dissertation, like this idea of like, and as Black women we know what a clapback is, but like the idea of like someone says something to you and you kind of like check them or hold them accountable, right? It can look like intervening. So if you see another Black woman being attacked, like coming in to support her, asking her how can you help her, mass reporting the accounts. It can look like being careful not to put where you're going in real time, right? I know a lot of people like to do that. And I've learned a lot to not put certain things on the internet to protect myself. And then it also looks like a lot of the work that I'm doing now with Black Sky algorithms is like actually creating tools to like label and moderate like misogynoir and anti-blackness online and stuff like that, and like creating workshops and things like that to tell people like how to protect yourself online is basically like what the harm reduction looks like. And I think that because the harm online, some people don't take it seriously, but we see now with all of those Black women who were killed recently that like the way that people talk about Black women online, even when they're being murdered by their husbands or whomever, like is a direct form of harm. And like there's no
It's
protection from that.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that for me, the harm reduction is like the innovative part. Like, how are we protecting ourselves? Because we've always had to protect ourselves. No one has ever protected us.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said about not putting where you are online, like me, I'm so funny about that. And and I'm not even like, famous, but I'm like, well, I have strangers following me on social media. You don't know what they're going through in their life. You don't know what ill feelings they might have towards you, even though you
Mm.
don't even know that they exist. So I am really funny about like what I put on social media. I covered an event a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even really put a lot of information up about it because I was like, well, I don't want nobody, no psychopath to meet me there.
Yeah.
As someone who's been going to protest and for against police brutality and just for the better to better the lives of, Black people and the way we're treated in society since I was 6 years old. I've
Yeah.
had security since I was 6 years old because of that, because I got my first death threat when I was 6 years old. So this was
Mhm.
like, as a millennial, this is like before we even started getting on social media. So I
Yeah.
am really funny about putting things online, and the fact that you pointed that out is important because I tried to speak to people about that before, about being careful and being mindful, and they were like, oh well, I want to somebody I want people to know. I was like, okay, you don't have to listen
Yeah.
to me, but I'm just taking safety measures. But
Yeah.
um to go back to your diagnosis, being diagnosed in your 30s, how did receiving a later in life diagnosis shift your understanding of yourself and your work?
Yeah. So when I got the because they did a full, what I really liked about this neuropsychologist, he did a full psych eval because I had one of my like mutuals online, Supernova Mama, was the reason why I actually like went through with the di like going to the neuropsychologist because she,
Natasha.
yes, she was talking to someone. It was a long time ago on Twitter, and she was talking like someone was talking about like they said I had bipolar too, but I actually am autistic. And I was like, wait a damn minute. They also told me that too, and stuff got worse. So I told him about that. He was like, okay, we want to do a full psych eval because he was like, sometimes when Black women in particular are autistic or neurodivergent, people who are not paying attention to that because it shows up differently diagnose us in our 20s as bipolar 2 or borderline personality disorder, like these certain things that are actually just like other diagnoses coupled with being neurodivergent. That's how it shows up. So when he did the psych eval, there were some things on there that I was like, okay, I knew I had that, I knew I had that. And then when I got the autism diagnosis, I think the main thing for me, and I had started doing like a video series and stuff like that when I was putting stuff on my YouTube and I had my personal Instagram. And I was just talking about how like it was more of a like a a comfort for me than like what I think it would be for other people who would find out because it forced me to be gentle with myself like I am with other people who are autistic,
Mhm.
right? Or other people who learn differently and stuff like that. Like I've always been very like mindful of how I always treated other folks who, have different abilities. So it like it was affirming, but it was also like it felt like it felt like, an aha moment of like, oh, so now you don't have an excuse to treat yourself bad or to talk to yourself badly about the things that you do different.
Mhm.
Um, because like there's nothing wrong with you. You're
Right.
autistic. And like literally it was just kind of like it was like a light switch went off in my head and I was like, and everything I could think about for my entire life that I constantly like was very critical of within my own self, even if I didn't say it out loud, were literally things that I did or actions that I had because I'm autistic. So I was just thinking to myself, like, there is so much like mental health things and like so much like self-harm and stuff that I have done to myself before getting my diagnosis, that getting my diagnosis was like affirming, but it was also like, okay, now that we've affirmed this and we have the diagnoses, can we actually stop treating ourselves the way that we were treating ourselves?
Yeah, wow, like that. I feel you because when I got diagnosed, I was kind of like in denial about it, so it took me a little while to accept it. But once I accepted it, like I felt like when I was just like, not wanting to come to terms with it, I felt like I was torturing myself. But then when I came to terms with it, like life just became better, and I actually started to feel like, okay, well, this is what living is supposed to feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that that was the best part of it, honestly, is that it it made me be gentle with myself.
Yeah.
Which like you shouldn't have to wait for a diagnosis to get that, but I do think that like as Black women and femmes and stuff, like we have a lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of violence coming at us, and I think that like it feels normal to blame yourself for everything that you do, even if it's something that's literally out of your control. So I think that that kind of just confirmed to me that I need to be gentle with myself. And then also it forced me to like be very vocal about it. Like I don't care who I'm talking to. Like if I feel like it's appropriate for me in that moment to say like, oh yeah, I don't know if you know this, but like I'm autistic and I have ADHD because I think that that also can shift the conversation when I'm talking to someone, and it makes me comfortable to not have to mask. So I will say like I'm really bad with social cues, and so I don't bite the inside of my mouth as a form of self-harm that I used to do. I'm just going to mute myself, but I don't want you to think I'm not listening to you. I just don't want to talk over you. Or I carry notebooks with me so I can write down when I have like these thoughts. And I have OCD too, so like and like impulsive like thinking. So being autistic, you already gonna say what you want to say anyway. For the
Yeah,
most part.
I know I do. I know sometimes
Yeah.
people be looking
And
at me like,
I have yet to meet someone yet, really of any age, which is so funny to me. Like I meet like little kids who have been diagnosed with autism and like I'm talking to their parents and stuff because they'll see my little sunflower lanyard in the airport. I'm talking to the parents and the kids, and they're like, "Oh, da, 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 you know, when you diagnosed?" And I said, "No, when I was in my 30s." And like they're like, we're just talking about funny stuff that their kids do, and I was like, I do it too. And they were like, they always say that kids tell you the truth. And then one lady was like, my son is like in his 20s now, and he still does that. And I know that's because he's autistic. And she was like, it's just very funny because like he's saying it matter of factly. He's not trying to be rude. And she was like, he's an accountant. She was like, he works in corporate, but like because he, is at a point now where he's been accepted and he feels comfortable, he don't mind telling people like, hey, I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth, so I need to go on mute. And that's what I had to learn how to do is like remove myself when I feel like I need to mask. Like if I feel like I'm going to have to mask in order to connect with someone, I will just blurt out, I'm autistic. So this might happen.
yeah, everybody knows that I am. Everybody knows I have a fucking potty mouth, and
Yeah.
sometimes my dad be looking at me. He knows. He warns people,
Yeah.
because you never know what's gonna fly out of my mouth, and I've
That's what they
always been
always say
that
about me.
way. Like one of my aunts was like, "Oh, you were such a bad little girl. Nobody knew what to do with you," and I was like to her very respectfully. I was like, "Well, actually, I wasn't bad. I was just autistic, and nobody knew," and that
Yeah.
shut her up right away. But yeah, like and people laugh sometimes, like when I'm speaking, but I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just,
Oh,
I'm just being honest.
I hate that because it's like I'm a Libra, so I always call myself like the Bernie Mac because Bernie Mac was a Libra too. And I say like people think that I'm like trying to be funny, like you said, but I am dead serious. Like my best friend, like once my friends, like I told them like, okay, I got my official autism diagnoses. Like my very best friends, like nothing switched for them. They were like, oh, okay, like we just thought you was a wild boy. Like you just said whatever you said. And they were like, one, you do say whatever it is you want to say. We do know that. But also sometimes it is the autism. So it's so cute. Like my friends will be like, now, what you just said about that person that just walked past us? Who was in charge? And I said that wasn't the autism that time. I said because the autism would have said, baby, it's not even, you don't even gotta say that. So like I think that like that's fun, but like people that don't know me, like my best friend will say, like, you have always told people that like I am not your friend. And then when I say that, people laugh. They think that I'm joking with them. And I'm like, no, if I don't call you my friend, you're not my friend.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm the same way, and I know like sometimes people that can come off as me being standoffish or snobby or whatever people want to call me. So I get that a lot. So I definitely understand.
yeah, yeah. I just say I run a strict program. That's my also my new thing to go to. I'm like,
And
oh,
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with protecting your peace, protecting your boundaries. And if you just somebody, everybody's not your cup of tea. So,
right.
I don't apologize for that. I'm sorry if I don't like you. But
Yeah. I feel that.
for those experiencing harm or harassment online, what are some ways people can protect themselves while still being able to show up authentically?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I like to tell folks is that how you protect yourself and what you're comfortable with will change. So, like, I used to be an oversharer online, and then my following got really, really big every platform I went to, and it got to a point where I felt like people were entitled to me, and I didn't
Mm.
like that feeling. So I deleted my personal account, and now I just have my like small Hood Rat Scholarship account, and it has like less than 700 people, which is great for me. And I don't follow as many people. I think also that another thing that kind of helped with like me understanding like how harm reduction can change for you, because for me that's a form of harm reduction where I can limit how much information people have about me and limit what they can talk to me about.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and-
understand that part. I
yeah,
mean, I didn't know that it was harm reduction, but I
yeah,
I have unfollowed a lot of people because I kind of want to curate what I see and
yeah,
know what I'm feeding my mind and what I'm taking in. Because, at one point, and probably a little bit right now too, Instagram is a little bit overstimulating for me. So,
hmm,
I don't open it up and I see something, I get triggered. So it's
yeah,
just like I try to be like very careful about what I'm seeing and who's in my feed. Only thing is now they have that repost button, which is
yeah,
great for some things, but it's like sometimes people are sharing things that you don't want to see or sharing people that you don't want to see.
exactly.
But that is that's very, affirming to me to know that, I'm protecting myself. I'm not just,
Yeah,
oh, I
yeah.
follow
'Cause
that person. So thank you for that.
yeah.
Um,
And I was going to give one more that people don't realize is also a part of that is like proactively blocking people and limiting their access to you
oh,
online so
that's
you
me.
can show up. So like I know people like using the close friends, that's an option, but you can also like make it to where like certain people can't see certain stuff, even if they are following you. You can stop them from leaving comments on stuff. You can do all types of things to like prevent people who you know have harmed you in the past or has a history of harming people from even being able to know you exist. So I think that
Yeah.
that is like one of the big ways, especially because like for neurodivergent people, I think a lot of us are finding community online. So I would never say like, oh, don't share stuff about yourself online, especially if you're trying to build community, but also be proactive. And if you see something that you don't like that makes you uncomfortable, you have the right to like pre-block that person or that thing so that way you don't get harmed. So if you see someone who's
Yeah.
constantly attacking black women, you should probably just block them so they never find this black woman on whatever social media site you're on.
Right. And like right now, because I had a post, I don't know if you saw the post that I put up about Mattel and the autistic Barbie, but
Mhm.
it kind of went viral overnight. So I woke up to a lot of people who weren't following me, but they were leaving hateful comments on the post. So since that happened, because it gave me all types of anxiety,
Yeah.
but I will give somebody a good read, but it was still
Yeah.
just like
Um,
overwhelming. So what I have now, I have like I have to be following you, and then or you have to be following me to leave a comment. And then I also have like interactions limited where you can't just follow me, then comment. You have to
yeah.
be like following for a couple days at least to comment. Because, some people are so hateful, they'll follow you just to comment and
Mhm.
unfollow. So I was
Yep.
like, we're not going to have none of that over here. So I have done that. Every week Instagram asks, do you want to open your interact? And I'm like, nope, remind me in 7 days. I'm just going to leave it the way it is now because
Yeah.
it's just so more peaceful not having, that hateful energy in your space and in your orbit. So thank you for sharing those tips with everybody. Do you have any recent projects or ideas, stories that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I do want to share that the work that I've been doing now, which is really like a big passion of mine, it's not like my full-time work because I do a lot of contracting stuff, is through Black Sky Algorithms. And for those who are listening, Black Sky Algorithms is like a social media third place, and it's on an open network. So that basically means that like people can like create their own communities and feeds and things like that. So if you are looking for spaces where there can be more like a curated experience, and you want to be around more people that look like you, blacksky.community. Non-black people can join, but they have like different handles than the black people and they can't join the feed. And there's like certain features that we are going to be building out that are just for black people. So that, and then also just, I am always very open to just knowing about what other people are doing. So like I like your podcast and I'll try to keep up with other people's information and stuff like that. But
Thank you.
through my disability rising fellows, I've been able to publish an op-ed on in essence a couple like last February, I think, at the end of February, and it talked about digital misogynoir and AI, and how the government had used AI to like alter this black woman's photo,
Wow.
and they posted and how like that could be really dangerous. So that's some of the recent stuff that I've done. That people can like tap into and stuff that I'm working on. I don't do a lot of content like I used to. Like my TikTok is like private now. I haven't been on there in months, and I don't really post a lot of.
Oh, it's not the same. Ever since it was sold to America, it
Oh,
sucks. I post something on, I
okay.
post something on there. I used to get thousands of views. I'll post a video and it's just like it get like if I'm lucky if you get 100 views. So now I'm just kind of there at a habit or I just go
Yeah.
because I did build community over there.
hmm
But it's not the same. You're not missing nothing.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't post as much content as I used to, but I do like post a lot of my projects like on my website and then my Hood Rat Scholarship page. So but those are like the two main things that I've done recently.
Okay, that's all amazing and it sounds great. And I have to make sure that I'm following you. You know,
Yeah.
when I get on, I have a bad habit of getting on Instagram and just sharing my stuff and then just getting
Yeah.
right back off
Yeah, I
because
understand.
like yeah, I get like a little overwhelmed. So I'm like, let me just post my shit and then I'm gonna get right back off. But
That'd be me. I literally post and go. I've been doing that for so long on social media websites. Like I will just talk to myself in rapid concession and then I'll leave and then I'll come back and I have all these notifications. I'm like, what is this from? And I'm like, oh,
yeah, and
people
then
are interacting.
I try to thank people who shared it. So, you know, I'm trying to be a little bit more social on social media as
Yeah.
well. But what do you want people to know and take away from this interview?
Yeah, that like autistic Black women and femmes are on the internet, and just like we see other neurotypical Black women being harmed, we're experiencing the harm too, and that people need to be mindful of how they speak about Black women, especially Black women who are newly diagnosed or just starting to explore their neurodivergence, and like extend them some grace, like y'all extend to everybody else, because
Right.
we're navigating something that is seen as non-existent in our own community. So it can be very isolating, it can be very scary, and getting on the internet and being attacked for being something that your own community is still wrestling with is like very harmful and unfair.
Right, right. Thank you. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so they can find me at KáLynCoghill.com, and that's KALYNCOGHILL.com. They can follow me on Instagram at Hood Rat Scholarship, which is HoodRatScholarsHip. And there's also a website, hoodratscholarship.com. Yeah, and I'm on LinkedIn, my first and last name, KáLyn Coghill. And if you are on Black Sky or Blue Sky, you can look for me on there. It's just type in Dr. KáLyn Coghill and my name should pop up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your powerful journey and especially your wisdom with us today. I know this wasn't something that I was very familiar with, but I learned a lot and I'm appreciative for the information. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Black Girl Diagnose. Again, happy Autism Acceptance Month, Awareness Month, whatever you acknowledge. And remember, to our listeners, your support means everything. And until next time, take care and keep advocating with love.